Welcome to Glory Days. I'm Nick Brookes and today we're going to be talking tennis. In the past few weeks, we saw something many of us long thought unimaginable. A first-round French Open exit for Rafa Nadal. If it's the end of the road, what a journey it's been. Let's go back to the start and look at how he became the undisputed king of clay. Growing up in the little Mallorcan town of Manacor, football was Rafa's first passion. Yet it would be a stretch to describe him as a late starter. Nadal picked up a racket at age 4, strolling across the road from his parents' apartment to the tennis club where his uncle Tony was coach. The Nadal family were well known for their athletic ability. Another uncle, Miguel, was a Barcelona regular in the 90s, capped 62 times by Spain and nicknamed the Beast. The Times included him on their list of the 50 hardest footballers. Uncle Tony was intent on building his own beast and unsurprisingly didn't take it easy on Rafa. When he caught his young charge daydreaming, he'd smash balls in his direction to shock him out of his slumber. Rather than showing favouritism, Tony rode Rafa harder than the other kids. Once, when he was 7 or 8, he forgot his water bottle. To teach him a lesson, Uncle Tony made him slog it out in the hot sun, without a drop to drink. When the other boys were done with training, Rafa was expected to stay behind, to sweep the courts and pick up balls without complaint. It was a purposely Spartan regime, designed to create a physical and mental phenom who could endure and prosper through the toughest conditions. Rafa remembers every training session being packed with tension. When it came to the big moments, he'd be ready for them. At first, young Rafa, right-handed but left-footed, was too small to strike the ball over the net, so hit both forehands and backhands double-handed. Tony wouldn't allow that for long, and Rafa eventually chose to hit forehands with his left, despite righting, throwing and striking a golf ball with his right. That both-sidedness would come to influence his game. After being on the receiving end of the double-handed backhand whipped across the court, Roger Federer said, "It's like Rafa has 2 forehands." At 8, Nadal got his first taste of success, winning the Under-12s Balearic Island Championships. He was training harder than any of the other kids, an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week, and it showed, even when he was heavily outsized. As well as endurance, Tony emphasised aggression, pounding opponents into submission with winner after winner. But as much as Nadal impressed those around him, his coach was ever ready with sobering reminders. When he won the Spanish Under-12s title, Tony went out of his way to find out the names of the last 25 winners, pointedly asking Rafa how many had gone on to make it. Not many, exactly. You've got to work harder. No doubt, his uncle's exacting standards influenced Rafa to take the heartbreaking decision to give up football at 12, to throw everything into tennis. By 15, he was training 5 hours a day. At 16, he won 6 futures tournaments on the bounce. The steepling rise showed no signs of slowing up. Before he was 17, Nadal had beaten the reigning French Open champ Albert Costa and taken out his mentor Carlos Moya too. Though injury prevented him from competing at Roland Garros, he reached the 3rd round of Wimbledon and had surged into the world's top 50 long before he was legally allowed to buy a beer. An ailing left foot kept him out of the French Open in 2004 too, meaning Rafa would be on the cusp of his 19th birthday before he felt the clay of Roland Garros under his feet. Although it was just his 3rd Grand Slam, Nadal was already seeded 4, yet he knew it wouldn't be easy. Standing in his way was tennis's newest superstar, Roger Federer, looking for the one trophy he needed to compete a career Grand Slam. But clay is tennis's most distinct surface, one which suited Nadal to a T. Growing up on the dusty courts in Mallorca, he was used to sliding, a skill which can sometimes take pros years to master. His combination of sprint speed and physical endurance gave him an edge on the clay. So too his ability to hit winner after outrageous winner. But the weight of expectation sat heavy on Nadal through the first week of the French. Although he only dropped 1 set en route to the semis, his body was weary, his mind clouded with the fear that he hadn't produced his best tennis. It probably didn't help that he'd developed a pain au chocolat addiction during the tournament. He was, after all, still just a kid. Fate brought an unusual 19th birthday present, a semi-final against the great Roger Federer, the pair's first clash on clay. From the opening point, Fed knew he was facing something special. Rafa got balls back that others would have given up on, and he didn't exactly tap them over the net either. Uncowed by losing the second set, Nadal was simply too much for Federer, charging around the court like a hungry dog, chasing lines like a banker on a Friday night. After blowing past Federer, the final was a foregone conclusion. Mariano Puerta took the first set, but Rafa ran and proved far too much for his opponent. It was clear that the tennis world had never seen anything quite like this on the clay. Yet still, even the boldest soothsayer couldn't predict what was about to take hold. It would be 2009 before Rafa lost a match at Roland Garros. During a period when Federer was winning slam after slam, he couldn't lay a glove on Nadal at the French. Scarily, as the boyish acne faded and the fully fledged man muscles started to bulge, Rafa was getting more and more dominant. By 2008, it was clear that we were witnessing a totally unprecedented clay court monster. Nadal cruised to the title without dropping a set. Across the whole tournament, he lost just 41 games, and he kept getting better. In the semi, he breezed past Djokovic. Still, no one was prepared for the kind of demolition he was about to dish out on finals day. In that showpiece match, Roger Federer, to many, the greatest tennis player of all time, won a grand total of 4 games. He was blown off the court in an hour and 48 minutes, handed out his worst ever defeat in slams. That doesn't happen to players like Federer. The match felt like a changing of the guard. No one had the tools to counter Nadal's power, his pace, his physicality. He was like a boxer who hits the hardest, moves the best, and lands the most combinations. Yet at this stage, he'd never won a slam outside of Paris. That all changed fast, as Nadal marched to 2 of the next 3, announcing himself not just as the dominant force on clay, but the best player in all of tennis. So naturally, the whole world was shocked when he finally lost at Roland Garros in 2009. Heading into the 4th round clash with Robin Soderling, Nadal was 31-0 at the tournament. There was bad blood between the pair, and Nadal was battling dodgy knees and dealing with the trauma of his parents' separation. Soderling's power game proved too much. 4 years after his first appearance, Rafa had finally lost a match at Roland Garros. That led to him taking a break from tennis. Heading into 2010, there were fresh questions about whether Nadal's style of play was sustainable. In a pointing reply, he cruised to the title once more without dropping a set, gaining vengeance upon Soderling in the final. And Rafa was just getting started. Victories in 2011, 12, 13 and 14 made it 5 French Opens on the bounce. He lost 10 sets in that time. After a decade at Roland Garros, his record was a seemingly impossible 66-1. Yet the greatest hallmark of Nadal's success is longevity. As he entered his 30s, the endurance Uncle Tony had instilled had become an unshakable part of his DNA. In 2015, Rafa was straight-setted by Djokovic in the quarters. The following year, he pulled out ahead of the 3rd round with a wrist injury. This time, Nadal was done, right? The body was broken. The hunger was waning. Djokovic was the new king of the court. But Rafa hadn't read the script. 2017 proved the easiest work yet, as he cruised to the title while losing just 35 games, a mark only bettered by Bjorn Borg in 1978. And incredibly, he just kept winning. Nadal claimed 4 of the next 5 French Opens. In 2020, he won the tournament without dropping a set for the 4th time. In 2022, he blitzed Casper Ruud in an embarrassingly one-sided final. At 36, Rafa became the oldest French Open champion in history. No one's got close to his record of 14 titles at a single Grand Slam. In all likelihood, the first round loss to Zverev marks the end of the road for Rafa. After 2 decades of utterly dominating the French, it feels like there's no more fighting Father Time. Yet even after that loss, he's got an 112-3 record at Roland Garros. Even as 40 comes knocking, he still doesn't seem ready to call it quits. Is it unthinkable that he can defy an ageing, breaking body and win a couple more matches next year? At this stage, would anyone complain if Roland Garros was renamed the Rafa Nadal Championship? In my mind, no sports person has ever dominated a single tournament in such style. Drop me a line and tell me your thoughts.